When you think of an isekai, what do you think about? Do you think of a top tier anime with really great animation, perfect characters that have good development, and to top it off, the perfect story? No, you don't. Let's be honest, at this point most of us just watch Isekai so we can have something to turn off our brains to so we can escape the harsh realities of life. Isekai is more like comfort food than anything. You know you shouldn't be eating it, it's bad for you, but for some reason you just can't stop watching. But every once in a while, you find that one that just hits the right spot, and to top it off, it's healthier than what you normally eat. Still not good, but it's better. Now, as a no-life who has nothing better to do but watch isekais, I'm pretty confident in my ability to judge them. So I decided to crown the best isekai of every type of isekai. What I mean by that is if the main premise of the isekai is a reincarnation story, then I'm gonna try and find the best reincarnation isekai that follows a similar trope. So without further ado, let's see how much hate I can get on this video. Now there are three different types of isekais. You have the ones that try to break out of the mold of the classic isekai, the ones that try their hardest to make you embrace the trashy isekais, and the ones that try their hardest to make you hard. Now, in terms of comedy isekai, there aren't really that much around there. Now, obviously you have 90% of isekais that do have comedy written in the description, but most times it's treated more of a side note and not really focused on much in the series. So as for what the best comedy isekai would be, I don't think anyone would disagree if I said Konosuba. 90% of isekais tend to follow the same trope. Your average salaryman gets reincarnated or transported to another world, gets overpowered abilities and the perfect harem. But with Konosuba, it takes all of that and makes it funnier and better overall. Instead of making Kazuma this overpowered pretentious MC, he's transported to this other world incredibly weak and barely able to survive just because he wanted to get back at Aqua for making fun of the way he died. But I mean, can you blame her though? Even his death was completely different and hilarious. So how did he die? Did a knife do it? Nope. What about Truck-kun? Nada. Did Train-chan do it? No siree. So then how did he die? Shock? He died by shock. Like an electric shock or no, as in pissed his pants shocked. Ah. I see. But even with all of that, Kazuma isn't the only reason why the series is funny. The dynamic of their party is just pure gold to watch and listen to. You have Aqua, who's the goddess that Kazuma dragged along with him, who's less of an actual goddess and more like a party girl who had a wee bit too much holy water to drink the night before. Then you have Megami, the pint-sized mage with a penchant for explosions. Try saying that 5 times fast. She's like the Michael Bay of fantasy worlds, except with a fraction of the practicality. But for some reason, you just can't help but cheer for her, even if it means hearing another Explosion! And who could forget Darkness, the tank of the group who's a massive pervert and somehow managed to roll a critical hit on her masochism stat. Now what on earth could make this team of misfits so perfect? It's a synergy, it's the chemistry, and it's the fact that they're all lovable misfits that makes them so enjoyable to watch. Kazuma's sarcasm, Aqua's cluelessness, Megumi's explosive enthusiasm, and Darkness's whatever this is, are a recipe for pure comedic gold. Now that I think about it, Konosuba is actually more of a jester than an actual king. Now, remember when I said that there were 3 different types of isekais? Well, Eminence in the Shadow is the second one. It's like the guilty pleasure you never knew you needed until you actually had it. Eminence in the Shadow doesn't take itself too seriously, and that's what makes it so perfect. It's like the creators just sat down one day and said, hey, let's laugh at the isekai genre and at ourselves. The humor is self-aware and it pokes fun at the very tropes that make isekai both loved and criticized. It embraces everything we normally make fun of in an isekai, takes it, and makes it 100 times more enjoyable. Sid isn't the hero that we're used to. He's cringy and socially awkward, but that's what makes him so endearing. We're not watching a power fantasy, we're witnessing a guy who's so uncool that it's actually cool. And just like 90% of isekais, you have to have the overpowered part. And when he decides to flex those overpowered abilities, it's the most hype feeling you could ever get watching an isekai. The beauty of Eminence in the Shadow is that it manages to make you laugh not just at Sid's cringe, but also with his power flexes. The combo of his awkward demeanor and his ability to turn the tide in unexpected ways creates a unique blend of comedy that just keeps me wanting more. Now for the undisputed champion of Reincarnated as a different creature type anime, with the best isekai protagonist in the world, That time I was reincarnated as a slime. Now, I had already went through all the reasons why Rimuru is the best Isekai protagonist, and that video had a lot of stuff related to the series as a whole. But to summarize everything I said in that video, Tensura is like the perfect combination of light-hearted funny moments, but also has those good serious moments that I just can't seem to get enough of. All of this paired with how much I love Rimuru as a character makes me only want to support the series that much more. But in doing so, I often find myself hearing a voice coming from my pocket begging me to stop, but honestly I just ignore it because frankly it goes away after I'm done supporting my favorite series, so it's not really that much of a problem. But if you want to get the in-depth reasons, go check out that video. I don't even think this one was much of a competition. Now, I'm not the biggest fan of slice of life anime, especially if they're isekai, so I originally had put off watching Ascendants of a Bookworm for a long time. But in all honesty, I was pretty surprised when I watched it. Ascendants of a Bookworm is what happens when you take the overpowered protagonists, the harems, and the epic battles and replace them with books? Instead of being the chosen one with superpowers, mine is just a bookworm stuck in a medieval world. And I mean stuck like an overzealous librarian who accidentally stepped into a fantasy world. Mine's not out there fighting demons or amassing a harem. No, she's fighting against a lack of paper like its survival medieval edition. But mine isn't the only reason why the series is actually good. The side characters aren't the typical isekai companions either. No one here has OP abilities or a tragic past that binds them to the protagonists. It's more like a group of villagers trying to figure out why this girl is so obsessed with these strange paper rectangles. I'm actually surprised that this anime doesn't get talked about more with how good it is. Ascendants of a Bookworm is the slice of life isekai that proves you don't need magic spells and epic battles to make a captivating story. Sometimes all you need is a girl with a dream, a stack of books, and a world that underestimates the power of ink. And now, what you guys have all been waiting for, honorable mentions. For the comedy isekai, the only other isekai that made me laugh as hard as Konosuba was Life with an Ordinary Guy Who Reincarnated into a Total Fantasy Knockout. And even though this title is longer than a KFC line in Jamaica, the dynamic between the two MCs is perfect and the gender switch trope was done pretty well. And all in all, was one of my favorite isekais I've ever watched. For the trash isekai, we have Reincarnated as a vending machine. Originally, I had planned on making a full-form video on how Reincarnated as a vending machine actually surprised me. Because despite how it sounds, Reincarnated as a vending machine was actually pretty interesting. Is it good? No, but it's interesting. Now, for the slice of life isekai, farming life in another world is the perfect slow-paced and relaxing anime, but at the same time has a good story with great characters. The main character isn't stupid and the side characters have their own unique charm. All in all, if Ascendants of a Bookworm wasn't here, this would probably be first. And now for the actual number one isekai, we have Re:Zero and Mushoku Tensei. Now, you must be wondering why on earth these two are both here, and the reason is because it's my video. But the truth is, I just couldn't pick. Between these two, I've been on a longer emotional roller coaster than any Six Flags ride ever. With Mushoku Tensei, 1 minute I was weirded out, the next simping, sad, happy as hell, depressed, happy, cringing, and questioning my life, and finally, relief. With Re:Zero, it was trauma. There was nothing but trauma. I feel like after watching Re:Zero, I have more PTSD than a war vet. Everyone that's watched Re:Zero knows about the cursed trauma track, and every time I hear that track come on, I feel like I'm gonna be eaten by a bunch of rabbits. But at the same time, it does have its good moments. Subaru is like the mix of Kazuma without the comedy and Rudius. No overpowered abilities, no cheat codes, just a guy with a tracksuit and a bad case of I thought I was the main character syndrome. Subaru's not invincible, he's just really good at respawning, and with each death the weight of the world presses down on him even more. But that's the thing, instead of breezing through life with a harem of adoring characters, he faces consequences for his actions. His mistakes stick with him and affect his relationships and mental state. But despite all the bad things that happen in the series, you've never felt like it's too much. It's a series that embraces the darkness, takes you on an emotional roller coaster, and leaves you eagerly anticipating the next painful twist. Mushoku Tensei is a little bit different in the sense that it focuses more on self-improvement and Rudeus not wanting to waste a second chance that he got. Unlike your typical isekai hero who might have the personality of a damp sponge, Rudeus is a breath of fresh air in the sense that he's flawed, perverted, and carries the weight of his past life and regrets. He doesn't want to waste his second chance at life. Instead of stumbling around cluelessly, he dives headfirst into the world of magic like a socially awkward fish discovering a newfound love of water. But a good character can't carry a series. It needs to have good world building and good side characters. Mushoku Tensei doesn't just toss you into generic fantasy world with dragons and elves. It crafts a world with intricate lore, diverse cultures, and a magic system that's more than just flashy spells. The animation, character designs, and world as a whole are top-notch. It gives us a cast with depth, growth, and personalities as varied as a D&D party. From the pain-in-the-ass Eris to the cute and lovable Sylphie and everyone's favorite lolly, Roxy, each character makes me feel like no matter what happens, I'm always seeing a main character on the screen. But what really sets Mushoku Tensei apart is its commitment to realism. Just like ReZero, this isekai doesn't shy away from the nitty-gritty details. Rudeus isn't just a hero. He's a flawed individual with a dark past and he faces consequences for his actions. But thankfully, Rudeus doesn't remain stuck in the socially awkward, perverted phase forever. He grows and becomes a genuine and complex character. It's kind of like watching a coming-of-age story set in a magical world. Both of them have stuff unique to their story, and in all honesty, it makes it hard to choose a first place, but I know some people are going to be upset if I don't at least give my opinion. So for me, I like. So, thanks for watching, and if you want to see more of these kinds of videos, leave a like and subscribe. And tell me if you want to see a part 2. And I'll see you guys next week. Maybe not, because school is a real pain, so it probably might be a month.